So my wife asked me before I started recording this session, "You're not going to piss people off, are you?" And I said, "Yeah, probably." This podcast contains adult content. Welcome to the James Chambers Show. I'm your host for this podcast, James Chambers. Welcome to the first episode of 2018. I'm happy to be back with you, and I'm excited about what new things are afoot. I was planning a quick episode this week in preparation for some longer shows coming up, but this one turned out to be longer than I expected, so I guess we're starting with a bang. Much of my time lately has been consumed with several projects revolving around the show, but not things that will necessarily show up on the pod. The biggest thing that has been consuming my time has been learning how to form an LLC, and that's a limited liability company. I'll be meeting with an attorney soon and hopefully drawing up the paperwork to make this whole shit show we lovingly call the James Chambers Show legal, official, or responsible, whatever. The impact of this will not make its way onto the program so much as work behind the scenes, and I'll keep you up to date on that, and wish me luck. The other project I want to get started is doing a little music recording for the pod. It's time we had our own theme song, our own bumper music, our own transitions, and so in the coming weeks, I hope to record with a few friends and see what comes of it. Hopefully we'll share some tunes with you soon. And if you're a musician, or if you're in a band and want to donate any of your original content for use on the show, we would love you forever. And hey, you'll get a shout out on each and every episode your music gets used. It's a win-win for both of us. You get promotion and ears on your work, and I get to work with and promote amazing local or not even local talent. Email the show at realjcshow2017@gmail.com or contact me on Twitter at realjcshow. I would love to hear your stuff, and I'm excited to see what we can come up with together. So those are the official show updates. Now let's get into today's main topic. On Facebook, I have been following a page called The Activist Mommy, partially out of curiosity, and look, if I'm being honest, partially because I liked the group accidentally and began to see their content showing up on my newsfeed. So who is the Activist Mommy, you ask? Well, I'll tell you. This information is taken directly from the About and Biography sections of the group's Facebook page. Elizabeth is an activist vlogger who educates about current events and topics that are important to families. And let me interject here. I find it a bit presumptuous that she educates, and I mean air quotes, about topics that are important to families. Like, whose family? Your family or my family? Whose family? And I know we can already assume who she's talking to. She and her husband Patrick speak at conferences and events and lead a pro-life ministry to rescue children from abortion. There it is. Keywords: rescue, children, abortion. Elizabeth homeschools her 10 beautiful children. The pulse behind everything Elizabeth does is her love for Jesus Christ, who saved her from her sin during her teenage years and launched her on a very unpredictable journey of service to him, which has included foreign missions, orphanage ministry, outreach to kids in troubled inner city areas, backyard Bible clubs, street ministry, pro-life rescue ministry, public speaking, producing a movie, and homeschooling her ever-growing family. And that's all one sentence, by the way. So we're going with evangelical conservative Christian. Okay, now I've got it. I make videos, I rant, I speak places. I love my 10 kids and my hubby. I do it all because of Jesus. I am the Activist Mommy. Well, immediately you can understand where this page's priorities are. This is a hardcore evangelical conservative page that one can assume uses the term snowflakes a lot and uses liberal and leftist as a diminutive slur, and persistently promotes the hashtag gender insanity when discussing any of the issues of the transgender community. If you're new to the show, I recommend stopping here and going to the episode of the JC Show called This Is Who We Are, and then come back. It's okay, we'll wait. Welcome back. Now that you're 100% clear on the viewpoint of the show, let's continue. Lest I be accused of living inside a strict ideological bubble, I decided to let the Activist Mommy's content come through, and this is what I found. Bylines such as the brutal witch hunt against the Christian teacher who accidentally misgendered a student, miracle, baby survives abortion, clinic offers to kill her again, mom says no, little girl reacts to leftist, sex ed program says, "Mommy, I don't want to be a boy." So you get the idea. Each of these articles could be unpacked enough to be a show in and of itself. The activist mommy relies on misinformation, thin arguments, baseless claims, and often horribly insensitive and derogatory language designed to mislead or just reinforce a false narrative. And I must point out, I have read many articles over the last few months and that have been shared on their Facebook page, and so far, none of them have offered substantiating evidence or facts. Canards, red herrings, and straw men abound at the activist mommy. And some of you might take issue with the idea that I qualify insensitive language as being a negative, and that I'm being too PC or that I'm a snowflake. Well, let me remind you that decency still matters. When you intentionally disparage or deride another's very existence, and I'm referring specifically to the group's attitude towards LGBTQ people, you're nothing short of an arrogant, self-righteous, misinformed bully with no interest in and even an active resistance to learning about the issues. And bully may be a little tame now that I think about it. Maybe asshole would be more appropriate. You don't have to accept or even condone someone else's life or their understanding of themselves, but you damn sure should be kind and respectful. That's just being decent. You may think gay people are ungodly or transgendered people are unnatural, but you'd be wrong on both counts, and yes, there is science for both of those claims. Further, perpetuating stereotypical and ignorant views does nothing at all to build an understanding or cohesion in our society. You become the divider. You act as a barrier to understanding the very existence of your fellow humans and your fellow Americans. Kind of like a dung beetle, rolling a ball of shit forward into the world. Is that really who you choose to be? I will happily entertain questions on what the difference between biological sex and gender identity is. Email me or tweet the show. That's fine. I will bring your comments and questions on that topic onto the show on a future episode. And a side note, so the activist mommy is a mouthful. TAM seems odd. TAM seems odd. And Tammy kind of sounds like you're saying the activist mammy. And we don't live in antebellum Georgia. So, I guess I'll just have to go with Tommy. At least it sounds kind of like mommy. Well, anyway, just all that aside. Not long ago, I read a post from Tommy regarding a petition asking our part-time president, Donald Trump,
bing, bing, bong, bong, bing, bing, bing,
to sign a personhood executive order. If you're unclear on the pro-life argument about personhood, it basically means that the embryo zygote fetus should have all of the same legal protections and constitutional rights as any other living American. By enacting a law like this, you essentially make all abortions murder and therefore illegal. And clearly this is an end run around the courts and a backdoor entry into the system, if you will. Fun fact number 1, Trump signing an executive order like this one would do fuck all legally. It would have a big fat zero impact on the legality of abortion in America. It does, however, set a certain kind of precedent. Fun fact number 2, abortion is legal, folks. Its legality is based on the law, evidence, and science. Abortion is not murder legally. Just look it up. Now, fuck it. Here it is. Abortion is legal under the law, assuming that the person performing the abortion is doing so with legal authority and without malice. Now, if an abortion was performed on an unwilling woman or with malice by the woman, you may be able to form a legal argument. I mean, that would probably never stand up in court. If you sling around the term murder to describe abortion, just know that you are legally incorrect, and facts still matter. We could do the abortion dance all day, but what I really wanted to know was how the followers of Tommy would react if I posted a contradictory idea. Mostly being a religious bunch, I asked them to please clarify for me where in Scripture, New or Old Testament, does God or Jesus specifically talk about abortion? Specifically. Yep, friends, I asked for a double scoop of trouble. Bottom scoop abortion, topped with a healthy helping of religious zealotry. Here's a sampling of the comments that I got on the post. John, first of all, that's wrong. Second of all, even if it did say that in the Old Testament isn't in effect anymore. Also, Leviticus 18:21 says, "Do not permit any of your children to be offered as a sacrifice to Moloch, for you must not bring shame on the name of your God. I am the Lord." John, you're literally and scripturally wrong on both counts. Jeff, Abortion is the intentional killing of a defenseless human. That should be enough information for you to be against abortion. Okay, so that argument doesn't really hold up much either, does it? Let's take the fertility clinic issue. A family or a man and woman decide they want to have a child. They have a bunch of fertilized embryos that they want to go ahead and implant. One of them takes. Great. She's pregnant. Everything's going great. Has a baby. They're happy. Now they have 20 fertilized eggs that, I'm sorry, I said embryos earlier. I meant eggs. They have 20 fertilized eggs that are now, in this argument, they are defenseless humans. What are you going to do? Are you going to keep them in a cryogenic freezer? No, they dispose of them. They send them to scientific laboratories. They do other things with them. They're not going to implant John and Joni's fertilized freaking egg into, Tommy and Jane. That's just not how that works. So your argument really doesn't hold water. Okay. Charlinda, the Bible tells us not to murder. I can't believe someone made this a debate. Laugh out loud. Okay, first off, the Bible tells us, not a debate. Just ask someone first to substantiate their claims with evidence. Simple, right? Carla, it really makes me laugh. People who do not accept God trying to use the Bible, that makes no sense whatsoever. I will say one thing. God was angry and upset because of all the pagan rituals that were being done, which included child sacrifice, orgies, and whatever they believed went. Kind of how the rebellious are today. Who are the rebellious today? And are you really trying to argue that only people who believe in your version of God can understand the scripture? Damn, and you call progressives elitist. Robin, God is the one that's busy creating the baby in the womb. That's why abortion is murder in his eyes. Oh, nice to meet you, God. Robin is a nice name, by the way, my lord. Callie, the mass child sacrifice has to end. It's such evil. Callie, perhaps turn your attention to all of the actual mass murders that are happening literally right now. Men, women, children. Yeah, then we can talk. Oscar, and this is referring specifically to LGBTQ people. By trying to brainwash young children to accept their way rather than allowing them to decide on their own at an age when they can actually understand the meaning of all this, if anything, the LBGTPQRSTUVWXYZ don't know what decency is and are losing respect. You don't know the way. Fucking hell, brainwashing? Oh, and just to point this out, the you don't know the way, the letter U, don't, KNO, no, DEDWEY, way. You don't know the way. Respect. Fast forward, selector. All right, so you see a trend? Almost no one actually addressed the question I posed, and repeated several times in various ways. There was name-calling, there was threats of damnation, and some good old-fashioned ignorance, but very little actual thought. To her credit, the activist Tommy, did reply personally to my questions, at least once or twice. I assume she was too busy rabble-rousing elsewhere to address fundamental questions of scripture and logic. Too bad, I suppose. There were people who attempted to use Exodus 21, verse 22 through 25 as proof that God did speak to the consequence of injuring a pregnant woman if you get into a fight and she intervenes and is subsequently harmed. But even there, the scripture is unclear. Is it the woman's harm that's at question or the unborn's? And to many scholars, the passage seems to establish the value of the woman over that of the unborn. And to muddy the waters further, there are passages that seem to indicate that the unborn are not fully a person until separate from the woman's body and has taken a breath. Others still concede that they just don't know when life begins, and therefore they encourage families to make their own careful decisions. And to clarify, the others I refer to here are American Christian denominations, like the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, many American Baptists and Presbyterians, and of course, Unitarians. They're in there, but they're kind of in their own category too. So why did I poke the hornet's nest? I mean, what could be gained? Well, first, I did it because I could. Second, if you believe something with all of the devotion of an evangelical Christian who is willing to shout from the rooftops about the evils of abortion and gays and sin and the return of a wrathful God, shouldn't you have an answer to a simple scriptural question? Look, I posted a series of simple questions that should have an easy answer if the answer was actually available in the first place. These people and millions more are taking what they feel to be right and just and contorting the Bible to match their scripturally and factually unfounded opinions. But then they take things a step further by attempting to force all of the rest of us, Christian or not, to live under their rule because, well, I guess we're too stupid to be able to work out moral and ethical issues ourselves. I mean, just look at us. We treat gay people like human beings. Clearly, we need the help. We need the help? Conservative evangelicals and you, the activist mommy, you imposing your religious extremist views devoid of evidence or tangible fact on everyone else and attempting to change secular laws to make everyone obey your narrow interpretation of religion is disturbing. And, not to put too fine a point on it, your attitude seems frighteningly familiar, kind of like the tenets of extremists, of the Islamic State, Boko Haram, or Hezbollah. Look, please keep your faith where it belongs, in your home, in your family, in your church, and in your hearts. It's perfectly okay to preach and try to convert. I get that. And that's all well and good. But keep your dogma out of our courthouses. You forcing your narrow evangelical version of Christianity onto the rest of us is plain wrong, and we will fight to keep it out of our country's laws. America is founded on the principle of separation of church and state. Keep your false teachings out of my wife's, my sister's, and my mother's and my friends' wombs. Oh, and FYI, I am in no way arguing that you should be silent. I would be monstrously hypocritical to use my freedom of speech to demand that you relinquish yours. So, by all means, keep posting on social media. Keep discussing all the ins and outs of why everyone but you are wrong and deviant and evil. No one wants to stifle your free speech, so don't claim to be a victim. You're not. Greg Graffin said it best when he said, "Lay hands off her body. It's not your fucking life." Jesus Christ, from turning every hungry soul. Thank you for listening to the I Might Have Made Mommy Mad episode of The James Chambers Show. Follow the show on Twitter @RealJCShow, and please email the show realjcshow2017@gmail.com. Again, if you're a musician and want to help out or donate some tunes we can use on the show, get in touch. We would love to hear from you. Thanks.